When you think about the word culture, what comes to mind?
Well, I think as far as where we are here, what comes to mind is Acadie, or Acadian culture, which I think is just absolutely awesome. And I think it's something that people like to come and see and experience. It's something that when I first came, I really enjoyed the culture. And the welcoming nature of the people and the Acadians and the whole area. And just a different way of living. And I actually fell in love with that way of living and decided to make Yarmouth my home. So that's one thing that comes to mind as far as culture. Also, another thing that comes to mind is immersion, immersing in culture, and also multiculturalism, where other cultures are welcomed in as well, and that they can also practice their own cultures, or things that they do that are different, and to embrace that.
Mm-hmm. Dolores?
When I hear the word culture, different thing comes to mind, and that is one, diversity, multiculturalism, as well as many faces of different things. It can be food, it can be people, it can be place, it can be cultures, it can be traditions, and it can be what's it called? Diversity, like I said earlier. So culture is many faces for many things, and different ways of doing things. It's unique. I always like the word unique, because our differences is what make us unique. And for me, that is strength, that is power, and that is you get things done with diversity.
How does that relate to Yarmouth, your view of Yarmouth?
Well, when I first came here to Yarmouth 23 years ago, it was a very bubbling town. People, somebody like me is, I don't think we're too noticed. The reason why I say that, because you could feel it. You could feel it. You could tell that it's a small town that is very knitted, very knitted people. And when you are new, people kind of know you are not part of, in a way that you are not from here. Mm-hmm. And the first thing they'll ask you is, where are you from? Things like that. Even till today, some people still ask me, where are you from? And I still ask myself, why do they still ask me that question after all these years? But one thing I do say though, I've seen a lot of improvement in my work, in relation to my work in the community, because I have partners that I work with in the community itself. When I organize programs and activities and things like that, I usually bring my partners and some community members together with the immigrants, just to merge them together, to get to know one another, to introduce one another to each other. I've seen a lot of changes coming up, especially for the past 2 years, especially with the immigration thing that is rolling, federally, and things like that, the refugee things. And again, because of the awareness of immigration in our communities, in everything that we're doing right now. And I think that we go into the Irish program, we're going into schools and, having settlement workers that really help navigate newcomers when they come here, and people who could actually go like the Irish program is doing. We could go out there, let people know who we are and these immigrants and things like that. So we do all kind of welcoming community activities that make the community get to know who we are and each immigrant and things like that. And I've seen a lot of changes, and I've seen people are beginning to stay, but those that you see leave are those who cannot find a job. Mm-hmm. Traditionally, there are people who come from very conservative families, especially the ones with children. And one thing I do hear often from them is that Yarmouth is a good place to raise kids. The kind of kids that we want to raise back home that they cannot raise in the city here. They want to raise their children here in Yarmouth, and for them to want to leave, that means both partners doesn't have job.
Doris, what do you think?
Well, I think if I were to give Yarmouth a grade, I'd give them a fairly high grade, a B plus at least, with cultural awareness and how welcoming they are. I felt very welcome when I came here. You know, there's always the odd person that doesn't like Americans, but I think that overall that's not really an issue. People here are very warm and, like I said, inviting. I'd say the biggest issue here with immigration is that we had so many people leave as industries here went out of business. And obviously we have a strong fishing industry, but a lot of the other manufacturing industries had gone by the wayside. And I think the biggest way to attract people to Yarmouth is we need some type of industry, manufacturing, factory, whatever it is, but people need to make a living wage. And I think the reason most people left is because they couldn't afford to stay here. And we've lost so much. If you look at the history of Yarmouth, it was such a booming, town years ago, and slowly, we've lost. We lost our buses, we lost our train, we lost the airport, which is a huge thing, and we lost a lot of the manufacturing that we had here. And so people just couldn't afford to stay. I think that if we had good high-paying jobs here, for example, high-tech jobs would be a wonderful magnet to draw families from not only all over Canada, but from the States and even from abroad, where people feel that they make enough money where they can afford to buy a house here, or buy a house and fix one up, hopefully, and afford to have enough money left over to maybe go to a restaurant or a movie. So I think our biggest issues with immigration is we need to have magnet jobs that are a living wage, that pay well, so people will then come. I think if you had a booming industry here, you would see like a light switch. This town would just light up. It would just, turn on.
Yeah. Do you agree with that, Dolores?
I would say partially,
Yeah.
because I look at things differently because I am in the job. So what I see maybe 2 or 3 ways straight. For some people, is it a community that I want to raise my kids? Even though those of them were professionals that have jobs like doctors and people who have their own businesses or, doing their own thing. It's not so much, a job it's in one part, but another part is it a welcoming community? You may have all the jobs you want to have here, but if it's not a welcoming community, people will still leave.
Yeah,
So-
I'd like to add on to
Sure.
that. As someone who immigrated, you said you immigrated 25 years?
23
years
yeah.
ago. I immigrated 10 years ago. I'm not sure what the process was when you came, but I know that the process when I did it was extremely cumbersome and difficult.
Yeah.
And I feel that if it was a little bit more streamlined and easy, we would have more people here. And also the fact that there's a quota, there's only so many allowed to come, and I know that was increased fairly recently, but still I think that number should go way up. And also there should be, for example, the Filipino communities or these other people that they've imported in, I guess you can call it imported, Mexicans, to work in these fish plants. I think that there needs to be a process in place where then if they decide they want to live here permanently, that they can do that. So, kind of some type of process. So that we would have these people here on a permanent basis.
How can we increase cultural awareness and diversity in Yarmouth so that we can bring more people in, attract more people here? And do we actually need to? Are we doing a better job now, or do you think that we need, what could we do better, I guess, a solution to having more people come in? What do you think, Dolores?
I think we are not there yet, but we are better than what we used to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. And I think that this Wild program across the province is a very good idea by the provincial government. And for my own, for my own data report, personally, I've seen increased. Now, this increase is just, I would say, within Shelburne, Barrington, Yarmouth, and up to Church Point. And I also would say one of the things I would really encourage our community to do, to continue to support this settlement program, to really work with the settlement, giver, so that they can help immigrants in our community. They should try to know have meetings with these immigrants, have kind of a meeting where we can invite them all together, and we talk and ask them what is it that you would like to see in our community. But one of the things I hear is that a job, there are some of them who work in this fast food restaurant maybe for 2 years and something like that, and they just want, some of them have a master's degree. They just want to move, to something else, something in their own field. And I think if they've worked here for 2 years in a fast food restaurant and they want to move, I think it's fair for them to get something. Sometimes some of them, they get a job, sometimes they don't. But I think one thing I would want to encourage and suggest is that in every place of work, at least they should have at least 5%, 5 to 10% of immigrants working in a place. It should be that way, because when you do that, you're not only retaining the ones you already have, they tell their friends, they tell their family members. And those ones, there are some of them who move from other parts of the province, other parts of Canada to Yarmouth here. Some of them just came to visit, friends and things, they just like it, and they start their own business. Most of them go to CBDC for business. And you were talking, Doris was talking about program, to make a visa, to make it easier for them to come here. We've already had what we call the pilot program. And that pilot, that's why you have more temporary foreign workers now in our area than you ever, had before.
Right. They have to be sponsored though by the fish plants
And which they are really
the
doing.
employer.
So now they make it so easy for them. Within 6 months, they have their permanent resident. In fact, I'm just coming back from the Church Point this afternoon.
Yeah.
So we do what we call need assessment and settlements plan. And so we put everything that, it's a form that they have to fill and things like that,
Right.
that will let us send back to the Department of Immigration, where they later process their application and even their own family.
Yeah.
If they want to, so they can bring their family, they can also bring their family here, apply for their family too, so that their family will be here with them. You see, so this is one new program that we had, and it's really working well.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of improvement. And again, English language, the Irish program is also, there's what's called English language available for the Spanish-speaking people who want to learn English. And so, like I say, things are getting better. We are not there yet, but there's a movement.
So I guess one of the big things that Caroline was looking for when we were having these discussions was solutions to the problems. And so I'm thinking the last few minutes that we have here, if each of you could give some ideas that you might have for the solution to the problem. I'll start with Dolores, and then.
I would like to see. Maybe industries here, It doesn't have to be 2 or 3 big ones, but for a start. And I would like to see a place like amusement park or something that, family center where, with open doors and indoors, like pools and things that young people, parents, family could go together, do things together. Like look at Upper Clement Park, for example. Is it possible? Is it possible that we could have something like that here? That's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
In a place where they have a lot of land, like in the municipality of Yarmouth, where there's a lot of land, places like Upper Clement Park, can we have such a thing like that there? Because that will bring a lot of people. We have our hospital here, that's a good thing. We have people from the Tri-County comes here for for treatment. So we could have something like an amusement place for family, for children, for young people, with indoors and outdoors, pools where they can have fun in the summer and, fun as well in the fall and winter. And again, another thing again is transportation. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know which will come first, whether transportation by road or the transit, like you're saying, or air, but I think we should have once reliable transportation that will take people from point A to B and C, that people could be able to move freely. Take for example, if you don't feel like driving today or something, your family or your spouse can't drive, or you just take the bus, like the transit, like what Doris
Well,
was
not
saying.
everyone has a car.
Exactly. You just take the bus like that and people would like that, something like that. And I think I would like to see the town really,
I mean, we're supposedly a walking town.
yeah.
So then we need a bus because a lot of people don't own cars, and it's very expensive to own a car. You have insurance and all that.
And I would think another thing I'd like to see again when we talk about, if we want to talk about not just people from other countries, but people from within Canada and even Halifax, that we can attract them here too. And what are the things they would like to see? Most of them, I would say, they like our weather here, and that's why you see a lot of seniors come here. Thank goodness for that, Our weather, cooperate with us,
We
and a
have
lot of people
absolutely
want to.
wonderful weather.
I know a lot of people who are moving down to this place because of our weather. It's not so hot in the summer, it's not so cold in the winter, so that is in our favor. But again, we should have a way of welcoming these people. All these things like they need this transportation to go around to explore. A lot of people like nature. Yarmouth is a place for that. And let's improve that. We begin to have trails, which I think is a good idea. But I think one big thing we would need, think for 3, housing, transportation, and amusement park, or like something we have like Upper Clement Park in this area. If you can just stick for that 3,
Okay.
3 for now, you will see how things will go.
Yeah. Doris, what about you? What do you think about the solutions to?
Well, I think we really need to look seriously at attracting some, I don't know if you want to call it living wage or high paying, but like high-tech companies to come here so we can have the jobs that we need that would support the things that she's talking about.
A lot of things Yarmouth have that other communities don't. I go to other small community, Yarmouth stand out. But can we do better? Yes, of course we can. Like if you want to keep family here and you want to bring family from out there, we can do that. Like what I just mentioned, housing, transportation, in this amusement park I'm telling you about, like what we have in Upper Clement Park. If we can do that here, oh my God, let's start with just that first. You will be the transportation will be available.
Yeah, well, one thing
Other
I
things
think
will
that
fall in
the
place. I have a picture of what I'm talking about. I really have it.
Yeah.
And I tell you, this community has it all. But how do we utilize what we have? It's a beautiful community, believe me, it is. I campaign, knock on doors, and I say, oh my God, what a beautiful, sometimes I would just be looking, like, what a beautiful community. You need to really go around to really see that. But are we using what we have to our own advantage? Absolutely not.